Lou Charles Bentley speaking. Lou Charles Bentley didn't mince words when he slammed Brown's internal management, and it's not hard to see why. The team was humiliated by a one-win Titans squad that didn't even bother to hide its strategy, run the ball until Cleveland stopped it. They never did. Myles Garrett, the Browns' most consistent star, confirmed what fans suspected. The defensive plan was broken from the start. Coaches were chasing sacks, not stops. It wasn't just a bad game. It was a full-blown exposure of coaching malpractice. But what makes this unraveling even more maddening is how much talent is being wasted in the process. While Garrett dominated individually, Shedeur Sanders looked like a franchise quarterback, and yet his breakout performance is being treated as a footnote. The refusal to endorse him as the full-time starter, despite all evidence, speaks to a culture more invested in covering its mistakes than cultivating its future. The Browns aren't just losing games. They're sabotaging their own best hope for change.
If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed.
The Cleveland Browns didn't just lose to a one-win team. They collapsed in full view under the weight of their own dysfunction, and now the cracks are spreading from the locker room all the way to the front office. This wasn't just a loss. It was a public meltdown of strategy, leadership, and basic football. And when Myles Garrett, your star player, your defensive anchor, your locker room cornerstone, calls out the coaching staff by name for a disastrous game plan, that's not just frustration. That's a system breaking. Let's not sugarcoat what happened. The Browns went into a game against the Tennessee Titans with a defense obsessed with pressuring the quarterback. Full-blown pass rush mode. Except one problem. The Titans weren't playing that game. They ran the ball. They ran the ball everywhere. And Cleveland couldn't stop it because they didn't plan for it. Garrett admitted it outright. They were licking their chops to the pass. That's a direct quote. The defense was salivating over a game plan that assumed Tennessee would throw the ball, and the Titans did the exact opposite. Over and over. Ground game, time control, simple football. And the Browns never adjusted. Not in the second quarter. Not in the third. Not at all. That's not just poor preparation. That's coaching malpractice. That's failing to adjust the game in front of you and sticking to a rigid plan like you're too proud or too blind to admit it's not working. And while all of that was unfolding, something else was happening. Something that should have been the headline. Shedeur Sanders was balling out. Rookie quarterback. On a team unraveling mid-game. Throws for over 350 yards. For touchdowns. A 60-yard strike that most teams would have built a marketing campaign around by now. And somehow, the Browns respond by hesitating? After that performance, the organization still won't name him the full-time starter. Still talking about boxes. Still referencing criteria and development. It's insulting to Sanders, to the fans, and to the players who are out there watching him prove he belongs. Even Myles Garrett acknowledged it. His praise wasn't casual. It was deliberate. He said Sanders is coming up big, looking composed, and getting more at ease. That's not just encouragement. That's a veteran letting the public know this rookie has it, and the team knows it internally, which makes the front office's silence even louder. So why the reluctance? Why hold Sanders back when he's done everything right? Lou Charles Bentley, a former Browns lineman, said what many are thinking. The internal politics are suffocating the organization's ability to move forward. They're creating barriers that don't need to exist. Instead of evaluating what's happening on the field, the decision-makers are stuck in some self-imposed evaluation limbo, hiding behind vague jargon and meaningless standards. The result? A quarterback who just delivered a franchise-caliber performance is being treated like a project, not because of his play, but because he wasn't part of the plan. It's that obsession with hierarchy and protocol that defines everything wrong with this team, and the players clearly see it. Garrett didn't just criticize the scheme. He implicitly criticized a culture, one where the defense gets schemed into failure, and the offense gets slowed by leadership hesitation, even when the players are outperforming expectations. There's no excuse left. The defense didn't lose because of bad effort. It lost because the coaching staff refused to prepare for the actual game being played. They prioritized a pass rush fantasy over real, grounded football strategy. And when Tennessee exploited that, there was no counterpunch. And it's the same with Sanders. He didn't just meet the moment, he exceeded it. But instead of backing him, instead of riding the momentum of the performance, the Browns' leadership downplayed it with bureaucratic nonsense. No confidence, no clear path forward, just more hedging. This isn't just frustrating, it's dangerous. When leaders ignore what's obvious to everyone else, on the field, in the locker room, and in the stands, you lose your team. Slowly at first, then all at once. It starts with doubt. Players start wondering if the coaching staff is even watching the same games. Then it turns to detachment. And eventually, it becomes resignation. The best players stop speaking up. Or worse, they start looking for the exit. And that's the real risk here. If this continues, if the people in charge keep doubling down on the wrong decisions, then don't be surprised when someone like Garrett starts looking elsewhere. You can only lead through dysfunction for so long before it breaks you. He's already doing more than his share, playing at a historic level, leading on the field, taking hits off the field for problems he didn't create. And now, he's the one pulling the fire alarm, calling out coaching misfires and throwing support behind a rookie the organization won't even acknowledge properly. It's not sustainable. When the Titans ran all over Cleveland's defense, it exposed more than just a soft game plan. It revealed a culture that doesn't value adaptation, a leadership structure that can't take accountability, and a fear-driven hesitation to elevate players who don't fit a pre-written script. That's how talent gets wasted. That's how locker rooms fracture. That's how seasons spiral. And the worst part? The Browns have the pieces. Garrett on defense, Sanders on offense, both performing, both producing, but neither getting what they need from the top: support, structure, vision. Garrett's message was clear. The problems aren't just between the lines. They're behind the scenes. And if the front office doesn't take that seriously, if they dismiss it, downplay it, or try to spin it, then they've learned nothing. And they deserve every loss coming their way. Because the fans see it, the players feel it, and the tape doesn't lie. Sanders showed he's ready. Garrett showed he's fed up. And the organization? Still hiding behind process and protocol, waiting for reality to match their carefully crafted narrative. At this point, it's not about potential. It's about whether or not the Browns are willing to step out of their own way. Let us know what you think in the comments. Should Garrett have called them out? Should Sanders already be the clear starter? And what does it say when your top player has to be the one holding leadership accountable? If you're tired of watching the same cycle repeat, elite talent being dragged down by indecisive leadership, then hit that like button. Share this with someone who's ready for change and subscribe, because with dysfunction like this, the drama's far from over, and you can bet there's more to. What's playing out in Cleveland isn't just another bad week in the NFL. It's a team stuck in the quicksand of its own decision-making, slowly sinking while its best players are yelling for a rope. And the people in charge are too busy looking for a clipboard. Myles Garrett going off wasn't just a soundbite. It was a breaking point. It was a culmination of being asked to carry a defense while being handed game plans that crumble under the slightest pressure. It was a leader on the field drawing a line, making it clear that effort alone isn't enough when coaching refuses to meet the moment. His frustration wasn't vague or generic. It was laser-focused. The Browns bet everything on collapse in the pocket, committed to the idea that Tennessee would come in slinging the ball. And when the Titans started pounding the run, the Browns got exposed hard. Garrett said it himself. They were licking their chops for a passing attack that never came. And when the Titans stuck to the run, the Browns had nothing to counter it. No adjustments. No accountability. Just more of the same. That is a massive indictment. Not of the players, but of the coaches. And let's be real, Garrett didn't say that in a vacuum. Players don't risk public criticism of coaching unless the situation behind closed doors is worse than what we're seeing. He said it because he had to, because clearly saying it privately wasn't working, because the people in charge weren't listening. And while Garrett was holding up a mirror to the defensive disaster, Shedeur Sanders was lighting up the scoreboard. If there was one bright spot in the Titans' loss, It was Sanders, over 350 yards. For touchdowns, calm under pressure. That 60-yard bomb, that wasn't luck. That was control, timing, confidence. Things you can't fake, especially in your rookie year, by every metric. Shedeur Sanders played like a franchise quarterback. But what did the Browns say afterward? They said he hadn't checked all the boxes. Let's just stop there for a second. What boxes could possibly be more important than actual on-field performance? Over 350 yards. For touchdowns. The respect of the locker room. Garrett himself calling him composed and clutch. What are they waiting for? A spreadsheet to tell them he's legit? The boxes comment wasn't just tone deaf. It was insulting. And it confirmed what many have suspected for a while now, that the Browns' internal politics are getting in the way of progress. This isn't about Sanders needing to prove anything. It's about a front office that can't admit they were wrong. Maybe he wasn't supposed to be the starter yet. Maybe he wasn't the plan. But he is the moment, and they're blowing it. LeCharles Bentley said it best. This is organizational dysfunction. And you don't have to be a former player to see it. It's all over the tape. The defense getting carved up with no adjustment. The coaching staff refusing to react to the obvious. The front office refusing to endorse a quarterback who just delivered one of the best rookie performances of his. This is not a talent issue. This is a leadership issue. And every week they refuse to act is another week they risk losing the very people trying to save this team. Garrett knows it. That's why he spoke up. His legacy is on the line. His prime years are on the line. And he's watching it all get mismanaged. Again. And when a player of his caliber starts sounding the alarm publicly, it's because the quiet conversations didn't work. And then there's Sanders trying to do everything right. Producing under pressure. Showing maturity. Gaining the trust of veterans. And still being met with cautious statements and vague expectations. If you want to see dysfunction in action, this is it. You've got a rookie exceeding expectations. And the response isn't excitement. It's delay. And that delay, that indecision, that's how you stall a team's momentum. There's no reason Shedeur Sanders shouldn't be the full-time starter right now. Anything less is a disservice to him, to the fans, and to the team that's rallying behind him. It's not just a matter of fairness. It's a matter of winning. And when a guy under center is giving you a real chance to compete, and you still hesitate, that's not caution. That's sabotage. The Titans didn't beat a bad team. They beat a mismanaged one. A team where coaching and leadership are out of sync with what's actually happening on the field. A team where top players are trying to lead, and the organization is too stubborn to follow. How much more evidence does this front office need? Garrett is giving you elite production and calling out the flaws. Sanders is putting up numbers and showing leadership. Bentley is confirming what insiders have whispered for years. The only thing missing is action. Real, immediate, decisive action from the top. And yet, we keep getting the same recycled answers. The same empty phrases about growth and process. As if acknowledging Sanders as a starter would somehow be rushing things. What exactly are they afraid of? That he might succeed? That they'll have to admit their original plan wasn't perfect? Let's be real. This isn't just incompetence. It's ego. It's pride. It's a leadership group more interested in being right than being successful. And in the NFL, that's a death sentence. Because while they're talking circles around themselves, the rest of the league is watching. Other teams see this. Other players see it. And make no mistake, free agents pay attention to this stuff. They look at how the Browns treat their talent. How they listen or don't listen to their stars. And it sends a message. The longer they drag this out, the clearer that message becomes. Performance doesn't matter here. Results don't matter here. Only control does. And if that's the culture, then Garrett and Sanders deserve better. Garrett's legacy shouldn't be wasted on a team that ignores his leadership. Sanders' rise shouldn't be stalled because he wasn't part of someone's timeline. The Browns are lucky to have both of them. But luck runs out fast when leadership refuses to evolve. So, where do they go from here? They need to name Sanders the starter. Not next week. Not after further evaluation. Now, they need to publicly back their best players and stop hiding behind vague language and broken process. And they need to do it before the locker room turns on them completely. Garrett already gave them the warning. And given everything he's done for this team, they'd be foolish not to listen. The Browns have a chance right now, to stop the spiral, to stop wasting prime years, to stop pretending they don't know what they already know. But if they keep hesitating, they're going to find themselves in the same place they always end up, watching someone else's team win with the kind of talent they never knew how to use. At this point, it's not just frustrating, it's exhausting. The Browns have turned what could have been a turning point into yet another cautionary tale. You got the defense cracking under a broken scheme, a rookie quarterback outperforming expectations, and a locker room quietly boiling over. And somehow, the front office still thinks the real problem is that a few more boxes need to be checked. Let's be honest, the boxes aren't real. They're a shield, a cover story, a convenient excuse for a leadership group that's more concerned about optics than results. If Shedeur Sanders hadn't lit up the field for over 350 yards and 4 touchdowns, maybe, there'd be a reason to slow play it. But after a performance like that, on the heels of chaos, in the middle of a defensive implosion, you got to reward performance. You got to show your players that merit matters. But that's not happening in Cleveland. And everyone sees it now. The fans, the media, the players, especially the players. Myles Garrett didn't speak out just because he was annoyed about losing. This was deeper than that. This was Garrett, one of the most consistent and elite defenders in the league, drawing a line in the sand and saying, "We're done pretending this is working." He wasn't calling out teammates. He wasn't dodging blame. He was pointing directly at the decisions that led them into that mess. And it takes a lot for someone like Garrett to go public. He's not a finger pointer. He's a worker, a tone setter. But he also knows when enough is enough. His comments were aimed squarely at the failure to adjust, the failure to prepare for the actual opponent, not the imaginary one drawn up in the coach's film room. Tennessee wasn't running anything fancy. No deception, no smoke and mirrors. Just straight-ahead, ground-and-pound football. And the Browns got steamrolled because their defense was too obsessed with chasing a ghost of a passing attack. That's not a talent issue. That's not a communication error. That's a coaching staff being stubborn and unprepared. And Garrett made sure no one could mistake it for anything else. Now pair that with Sanders on the other side of the ball, dragging this team toward relevance despite everything collapsing around him. You couldn't ask for a clearer contrast. One unit falling apart because of scheme, and the other being carried by a rookie who's not even allowed to be called a guy yet. Let's talk about what that actually says. You got a quarterback who's not just making plays. He's commanding the huddle, managing the tempo, making real-time decisions, and doing it all with composure. He didn't get rattled when the defense let the Titans run wild. He didn't fold when the score got away from them. He stood in there, took hits, and delivered touchdown after touchdown. And yet, he's not ready. According to who? Because the locker room clearly thinks he is. Garrett's words weren't just about the defense. They were about Sanders, too. When a defensive captain goes out of his way to recognize what a rookie quarterback is doing, that means something. That's respect. That's belief. That's chemistry trying to grow in an environment that keeps pouring salt on the roots. His master collection. The real issue isn't whether Sanders is ready. It's whether the organization is ready to admit they need him. This is where the internal dysfunction really starts to hurt. Because now, it's not just about one bad week. It's about a repeated refusal to embrace what's working. You've got a defense begging for better strategy. You've got an offense finding its identity through a rookie quarterback. And you've got leadership bottling it all up with red tape and PR spin. What exactly is the plan? Keep running Garrett into the ground with flawed schemes? Keep treating Sanders like he's on a trial basis, even after putting up video game numbers? What's the end game here? Because this isn't sustainable. Massive collection. And this locker room isn't dumb. These are veterans, pros, guys who play for winning programs and know what winning looks like. They can see the problem as clearly as we can. And when they start realizing that effort and performance don't change anything, that's when the culture collapses. You think this team hasn't seen this movie before? They've lived it. And it always starts the same way. Mismanaged talent, delayed decisions, refusal to adjust. Then it spreads. Players lose faith. The divide between locker room and leadership grows. And eventually, the whole thing comes undone. Garrett tried to stop that. He didn't lash out because he's emotional. He spoke up because he's exhausted. Because he knows they're better than this. Because he knows how many years have already been wasted by plans that never materialized. And Sanders? He's just getting started. He's doing everything right and still getting stonewalled by a leadership group more concerned about how a decision looks than how it plays. That's not a culture that wins. That's a culture that survives. And barely. Master collection. The Browns have all the pieces. They've got elite defensive talent. They've got a promising young quarterback. But none of that matters if the decision makers are too paralyzed by protocol to act. This is about more than naming a starter. It's about sending a message that performance matters. That what happens on the field carries more weight than what's written on the preseason depth chart. That players who step up will be trusted, supported, and unleashed. Right now, that's not happening. And the longer it doesn't happen, the worse it. If they don't back Sanders now, they risk losing him. Not physically, he's under contract, but mentally, psychologically. You only get one chance to build a rookie's confidence. One shot to show him he's trusted. Delay that too long, and you end up creating doubt where there should be growth. And if they don't listen to Garrett now, they risk something even more dangerous: silence. Because once a leader stops speaking out, it usually means one of two things. They've given up, or they're planning their exit. Both are disasters for this team. Master collection. So what happens next? That's on the Browns. They can keep pretending this is about process and evaluation, or they can do the obvious thing: commit to their talent. Commit to Garrett by giving him a defense that actually adjusts. Commit to Sanders by making him the starter and meaning it. Anything less is cowardice. And everyone will know it. Let us know your take in the comments. Should Sanders already have the job locked down? Is Garrett doing what Stefanski won't? And how much longer can this team keep surviving off of talent alone before it all falls apart? If you've been watching this team fumble their own momentum for too long, hit that like button, send this to a friend who's just as sick of the excuses, and subscribe for more breakdowns like this. Because until the Browns wake up, this story isn't going away. It's only getting louder.